What's up, people? I'm Shaggy, the Opinionated Hippie, continuing my deep dive into the Who's live catalog. It's winter here in Texas now, and we don't have central heat, so we only heat the rooms we're in. This is one of the rooms we don't spend a lot of time in, so it's a little bit cold in here. But today I'm going to talk about, review, not play music from, and then rank among the other 16 I've already done, the Who's 2000 release BBC Sessions. The BBC Sessions. The BBC Sessions. BBC Sessions. This is a collection of BBC tracks that The Who played between 1967 and 1973. I think there's 25 tracks total. 23 of them are, I think, up through 70 or pre-70. I think 70 is the last one. Then we skip and we have two, I believe, from 73, the last two. And normally, and I'm going to rank it among the others, so I'll drop that list, the ranking at the end of it. I'm usually not a big fan of BBC Sessions releases. It's just when I want live music, my ideal thing is just give me a complete concert with no fade outs. Let me hear the audience noise. Let me hear the applause between the tracks. Give me the entire set list. Give me as complete a performance as possible, because I do believe that I've seen so many live shows in my life. I've seen bands who play the same set every night, and even bands who play the same set every night. Every show has a different vibe. The audience, the venue, the mood of the performers, like shows, they have their footprint, they have their thumbprint, they have their identifying sort of fingerprint that makes every show unique. And with something like the BBC Sessions, you don't get that, because you get 2 songs, maybe 3 songs from a performance. You get MCs or DJs or hosts or whatever it is in that particular performance talking, introducing the songs. I don't need that. And in the case of this, there's not really anything too fascinating as far as interviews go, so we're not getting that angle. So it's generally not something I go back and listen to a lot. That being said, I did enjoy this listen. This is not something I had checked out before, just for the exact reasons I named. But I've listened to it a couple times this past week, and I've enjoyed it. It is sort of not necessarily a greatest hits collection, but it is a fun early snapshot of The Who, with a couple really strong tracks at the end, and that's 73, where we kind of see where they develop and go to as a rock band. I will say, probably, with all the songs on here that I have on other releases and other live performances that I generally prefer over this one, the one thing that stands out over and over and over again is Keith Moon. Like, Keith is bringing it in these songs, in these performances. Like, the entire band is bringing it. All of The Who sounds good. But there's a lot of those where I'm like, wow, Keith. Yeah, Keith. What is Keith? I don't even know what Keith is doing. Does he know the rest of the band is playing a song? Is he just soloing? What is his purpose? Is his rhythmic purpose in the song to literally fill every instant of air with a drum beat? Like, he is a manic beast for a lot of these tracks. And so that makes it fun. But it's, I don't know. There are some highlights. There are some definite things I like about it, but there is a very disjointed nature about it that's not something that, I don't know, I want to go back to too often. Opens up with My Generation, the radio jingle, which is they changed the words to My Generation for like a 30-second radio, like an introduction to like a BBC program. That leads into a short interview. Then we get our first song, one of the highlights, I would say, of the disc, Anyway, Anyhow, Anywhere. The band sounds good. They sound bright. They sound energetic. The middle part gets nice and feedbacky, kind of chaotic-y. It's a really good, captures their brilliant 60s pop songwriting abilities with their ability to go into their version of a jam, which is just like, let's sustain noise and momentum for as long as possible, and then they go back into it. So as an opening track, being that the My Generation thing is kind of a commercial or a theme, the opening track of Anyway Anyhow is a fantastic snapshot of what this band is capable of, even as early as 67 or these early tracks. Then we get a cover of Good Lovin', which I just don't need. I don't need the original of Good Lovin' anymore. My mom was a big Chill fan. That was on the Big Chill soundtrack. Heard this song way too many times in my life. James Brown cover, Just You and Me, Darling. There's some good energy here, but this isn't their specialty. This isn't their cover. Some of their covers are good. Some I'm not a big fan of. This is one of those. I'm like, not quite their lane. Leaving Here, an upbeat early rock. This is also a cover. Just sounds like like an early '60s rocker, mid '60s rocker. Then we get a pretty restrained and, dare I say, musical version of My Generation. I don't know what the show was that they're performing it on, but it sounds kind of clean, sounds kind of a little bit restrained. Sounds like they're trying to get across the fact that they don't just destroy their instruments, though the ending does get nice and chaotic, but not like destroying instruments chaotic. Then we get The Goods Gone. Excellent choice. We do get like a DJ intro to this. Awesome song. There is a very Stonesy vibe to this one. Really nasty guitar solo in the middle. We get some like really dark fuzz early, and then he cuts the fuzz, or something happens and we go to clean. It's a weird little solo transition. But The Goods Gone is a nice, slightly darker vibe that I think works. And even though it's just like this snapshot of this song, it's a good song. I like The Goods Gone. We get La 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 Lies. Another one that is a DJ intro, some poppy early Who. We get Substitute, which is just perfection. This is one of those where you're like, whoa, what is Keith doing? Are there ants on his drum kit, on his snare, and he's trying to beat them all to death while he's playing this? Like, Keith attacks Substitute. This is a fantastic Substitute. This is perfection, and Keith is in full attack mode. Man with Money, Everly Brothers cover, Dancing in the Street. The guitar energy is cool, but I'm not a big dancing fan. Then we get some really good sort of tracks. We get Disguises, which has a Kinksian vibe. Kind of reminds me of like mid-60s Kink. Darker, psychier, a little moodier. Some great guitar action in this. I'm a Boy. Nice high energy performance of I'm a Boy. Run, Run, Run. Kind of a nice long quote-unquote jam in this, a nice peak guitar solo. They do a good job with this song. They bring the sort of requisite loose, jammy energy that Run, Run, Run demands. Good performance of that. Very straightforward, Boris the Spider, some more talking. Happy Jack. Keith is a beast in this Happy Jack. See My Way, kind of a galloping 60s rock Who's track. Pictures of Lily, always up for a Pictures of Lily. Love this song. Nice melodic, nice balance of like rock and pop. Like they kind of have their foot in the heavier rock Who vibe and the lighter pop Who vibe. And I think Pictures of a Lily does a good job of balancing those two strengths that the band has. We get a quick one While He's Away, a slightly shorter version of this. There's several live versions of this from 70 that I just think are better than this one, but it's nice to hear a quick one. We get a Substitute. Again, why not? Can always hear more substitutes. We get the Seeker. Guitar, there's some oddly mic'd guitar in the Seeker, like somebody's on acoustic maybe, or there's some other instrument that intrudes in on the music that, I don't know, just seems out of place. I don't know what it is, but it's an interesting, the Seeker. We get the Seeker. We get I'm Free, which just sounds fantastic. I love that riff. We get a pretty nice medley that's kind of nicely jammed out of Shakin' All Over and Spoonful. This is one of those covers. They have a number of these Young Man Blues, Shakin' All Over, where I'm not necessarily a fan of the cover, but once we get past the initial vocal part and the initial lyrics and the band just kind of goes crazy, I'm like, okay, it's worth it for this. And that's kind of the way I feel about the Shakin' All Over Spoonful. They don't go into Twist and Shout, which they would do live in some instances, but it's nicely jammed out. It's kind of a nice thing to have towards the end of the album. Nice little mean blues jam in there. Then we get a Relay, which is always fantastic. Relay is a highlight of any live disc Relay appears on. We get some nice 73 synth work in there. That's very jammy. It's loose. And then we get a fade out. We fade out on the song. There's a fade out, which should be a crime. And then we get Long Live Rock with a really long intro. What did I write? Oh, there's a timeline in which The Who maybe followed a more Grateful Dead-like concert setlist path. where they would play dramatically different shows night after night after night, and say they came to your town for 3 shows. They would pretty much, maybe not as the Dead were not doing in the mid 70s, but for the most part, they would play a lot of different songs over and over, and you weren't guaranteed to get Baba O'Reilly or Won't Get Fooled Again. There is a timeline in which Long Live Rock has a really important part in that, in which you get it maybe once every 5th or 6th show, and it would just be a great opener. It sets the tone for a show. It is such a great sort of journeyman type rock song. I love Long Live Rock. I just think they didn't use it as well as they should have, and it should have been a song opener, and it should have been I mean, it just, I don't know. I think there's a different version of The Who, and they have the ability to do it. Their jams would sound nothing like the Dead's jams or Allman Brothers jams or King Crimson's, but this band could have explored a more jam band territory. As you look at any of their encores from any time in the 70s, and they're just going from blues song to cover to other thing, and it's fantastic stuff. Noise driven and just brute sheer force of will are they going to jam, but it's good stuff. And I think Long Live Rock sets that kind of show up in a way that it doesn't, because they didn't go down that path. But I like the Long Live Rock on here, is my point of that spiel. And then they do a very short little Boris the Spider that's like BBC the Spider or something like that. They change the words. But yeah, and that's it. 25 tracks. It's a good listen. It's not in any way a bad listen. The sound is, BBC quality good. I think the song selection, other than the repeat of Substitute, pretty well covers, early Who, late 60s Who. But yeah, it's a fun listen. Just not my live sort of preference. If I had to rank this among the other 16 that I've already done, I have it way down at 15. I just, not necessarily for the quality, but this is a list of what I'm more likely to pull out and listen to if I'm in the mood to listen to The Who, and this is where that falls. I will listen to it prior to those ones on the bottom, but I'm not going to seek it out other than that. So yeah, that's what it looks like. So that's all I got. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, like, share, comment. Let me know your thoughts on this. Things I don't know about. Things I messed up on. Yeah. Praise the BBC if you're from England. I'm not, so I don't really know anything about these sessions other than there's a lot of releases of the BBC sessions. I guess just any show that's on the BBC qualifies as a BBC session. That's my understanding. But anyways, I'm rambling. That's all I got. Thanks for watching. Peace. Talk to you later.